Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode. This is your favorite realtor ever, Saint-Gerard with Keller Williams Realty Landmark. We got a special guest today, rafe.lieber. Rafe, introduce yourself to the crew. What do you do?
Good morning, Evans. Thanks for having me on. My name is Rafe.Lieber. I work for Northeast Title Services. I do title insurance. I help ensure the clean transfer of title from a seller to a buyer in respect to residential and commercial real estate.
Well, the number one question the buyers are going to ask, and probably the sellers also, why do we need title insurance?
So if you think about it like this, everybody gets an inspection on a house, and the inspector is looking to make sure that the structural integrity of the house is sound before the buyer can actually purchase it. We provide a similar service, except instead of the structural integrity of the house, we make sure that the legal integrity of the house is sound, that there are no judgments, liens, open mortgages, permitting issues, CO issues that might be open that could end up transferring to the new buyer, even though they never actually incurred any of those issues. So it is it's a sort of a niche product that is used on every real estate transaction, and we play a very vital role, but it's a role that most people don't really think about when they're coming into the purchase or sale of a piece of real estate, especially if it's their first time.
All right, so I can hear the buyers right now asking, wow, I didn't know I needed this. How do I go about getting title insurance? How do I order title insurance? What do you recommend to them? How do you get recommended, or how do you get involved?
Sure. So it is always the buyer's choice. In New York, it's the buyer who chooses the title company. In actually most other states, it's the seller, but New York is the exception rather than the rule. It is always the buyer's choice. However, over 99% of the time, the buyer has really no idea. They didn't even know they needed it in the first place. The person that usually ends up choosing the title insurance company is the buyer's attorney. It is a very legal, very technical process. So it does make sense that it be the attorneys who are working with the company, have comfort, have a history with the company, to be the one who chooses and works with the title company. It's important to note that title insurance rates are set by the state, which means we all charge the same. You can shop for title insurance in New York if you're the buyer and you're so inclined, but what you will end up finding is that you're not going to get a deal because we all have to charge the same.
Okay. So in essence, it's pretty much whoever you choose as an attorney, they have the relationships with the title companies. And I always stress this throughout this video series. You're building a team. You want to make sure you start from the get-go with the right team members. The right team members are going to have other people who are part of their team that will incorporate to their client.
That's correct. When it comes to mortgages, when it comes to the attorney, when it comes to title, we all work together throughout the transaction. So when we are familiar with each other, there is no doubt in my mind the transaction goes smoother, fewer hiccups. When there are issues, they get fixed faster.
All right. So after the title report is done, how long does the title report take, first of all?
So one of the things, a lot of the information that we're pulling when we're putting together a title report is from public record. It's from either the county or the town or the village or a combination, wherever the property is. So for us to provide a complete title report, it usually depends on the municipality that the property is in. Some are very quick, some are extremely slow. The boroughs actually are the best. Everything is online. But you start getting out into the suburbs, we're still stuck in the 1950s. You have to go to the building department, physically pull records. It's actually kind of antiquated. But you can get a title report anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. It really all depends. It's important to engage the title company as early as possible in the process in order to make sure that the report is ready by the time the parties want to close. But you're rarely going to see title being engaged before there's a fully executed contract. That's usually when the buyer's attorney will place the title order. As soon as you have a contract that's signed by both the seller and the purchaser, then the buyer's attorney will send the title order in.
All right, so now that the title's ordered, the report comes back to the attorney. The attorney's reviewing the title report. What can you tell our viewers what happens next?
So now, once we provide the report, now you're basically getting a list of all the issues that have to be cleared. From as simple as a existing mortgage on the house has to be paid off, to as complex as there's somebody put up their house for a bail bond and there's a lien on the house that has to be satisfied, or the most important of all is there a tax lien on the house from the IRS. You can have issues with open liens, judgments, mechanics liens. Somebody did some work on the house, they didn't pay their contractor, the contractor put a lien on the house. You have another issue that's extraordinarily common to New York, especially in the suburbs, are fence issues. You have to make sure that the fence is where it's supposed to be. And that usually is a combination of what is called the meets and bounds description, which is the English word description of how a property is, where it's you walk 3 steps and take a left at this tree, and then you go down to the sidewalk and you take a right. It's actually kind of silly to read. And then matching it up with the survey, which most transactions require either a new or a recertified survey, depending on how old the existing survey is. But if the fence line and the survey don't match up, that usually is a lot of work for the parties to make sure that everything is satisfied before you can actually close. So sometimes it even requires what's called a boundary line agreement, which is the neighbors are signing an agreement saying, yes, I agree, this is actually the boundary line. And that works great when the neighbors get along. When the neighbors don't get along, it can get complex. Sometimes the other neighbor, in order to say, yes, I'll sign this, wants to get paid. It can be very complex. You're dealing with the human factor. And as we know, sometimes neighbors don't get along. So that can delay a transaction.
Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do, which
more often than not they do. But sometimes you have the Hatfields and the McCoys, and it can become a problem.
I always stress to anybody who's buying or selling a house, get along with your neighbors, because you never know, you might need them in the future, especially like cases like this.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of difficulties, but everything that you discussed, there are remedies basically to fix these things also if there is an issue. Obviously, you're going to consult with your attorney, and they'll advise you what the next course of actions will be. What can you tell us after title's run? Let's say a couple years go by, something comes up on a title, and let's say the new homeowner just moved into the house a couple years now. Something pops up, or a distant relative comes out of the woodwork and says, hey, this is my property. Uncle Junie died and left me the house.
Yeah, that's actually a really good example. One of the things we do in my company is when there is an estate sale, we flag that as a potential future problem, because just like you said, there could be a third child who's disgruntled and lives in Arizona or whatever and decides after years they want to come back and say, hey, that's my house. We do our due diligence. We have several affidavits that get signed. We do everything that we can, and we protect ourselves, and we protect the buyer. But there are title claims. It does happen. And really, when you're purchasing title insurance, what you're doing is you're ensuring that if there is a title claim, what's inevitably 100% of the time going to happen is somebody's going to get sued. And that means that to protect yourself, you're going to have to hire a lawyer, bring counsel on to protect yourself. The title insurance, if there was a mistake made or an oversight, will pay for that counsel and might even pay for any settlement that ensues. But if the title company made a mistake,
Okay.
that results in the buyer, now the homeowner, having to incur legal costs or settlement costs, then that's where the title insurance comes in. It's a peace of mind. It's a one-time. You buy title insurance one time when you're buying the house, and that lasts basically forever. For the entire time you own that property, it could be 50 years. That one time you purchase title insurance covers you for the entire time that you own the house. The only time you might have to come back and purchase new title insurance is if you go to refinance.
Okay.
And depending on the scenario, you can get the title insurance at a drastically discounted rate. It's called a reissue rate. There are several factors that, and we don't have a choice in that. We're required to offer the reissue rate depending on certain factors. Most of them are, how long was it since your last activity on your loan, and also if you're adding somebody new to a deed. Then
So if somebody gets married or getting divorced or something to that, they're adding their new spouse or whatever the case may be.
Then you have to get title insurance again, because we have to search that new person.
Okay. Now, is that required? Basically, let's say they have a spouse and that spouse passes away. Is there anything they have to do with that?
No, it's only when you're adding. If
Okay.
you're taking somebody off, then there's no issue.
All right. So we have the title insurance. Let's say everything's cleared. Attorney basically is happy with everything that he's seen. They report this to their buyer. What's the next step? And this is more of a legal question, but
well, really, once title is clear and everything's good to go, title's usually the last step. When people are waiting to close on a deal, usually you're waiting for title to be cleared, and once title's cleared and we give a clear to close, then that means that the whole deal is clear to close. So we're dealing with scheduling, and we're dealing with we assign a title closer to the deal who shows up to the actual physical closing. I mean, a little bit different during the COVID era. Things
okay.
were
We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into
that. But the title closer is actually usually referred to as the most important person at the closing table. They're collecting the checks. They're making sure that everything's in order, checking IDs, making sure the person who's buying the house is actually the person that they say they are.
Let's go back one step. You mentioned IDs. I just want to make sure people are aware of this. When they're going to the closing table, or if they're doing a virtual, they have to present IDs basically. So it's a driver's license or whatever ID that they have. They have to produce those. They can make a copy of that basically at the closing table, or I don't know how they're doing it virtually now, but I guess you can make a photocopy of everything. But they have to produce an ID. And like you said, the closer basically is going to verify if you're Mr. A, Mrs. B, that you are who you say you are. And
correct.
Purchaser.
It's kind of an important title thing, is the person who's buying or selling is actually the person that they say they are.
Okay, great. So they're at the closing table. They have the IDs. They exchange. Then they give them back. Now what?
You're exchanging checks. You're signing documents. And you're getting keys, and then there it is. And then once the closing is finished, the title closer has a lot of checks, very large package of paperwork, and we will. The title closer is responsible for paying off any existing mortgages to the bank. We are responsible for recording a new deed. We're responsible for recording satisfaction of mortgage. We're responsible for recording a new mortgage. Unfortunately for the buyer in New York, all of those things come with government mandated costs that are outrageously expensive. It costs almost $1,000 just to record a deed in Nassau County, which is.
But this is for peace of mind also. So pretty much it's well worth it.
Well, it's worth it. Of course, it's worth. Well, it's not only is it worth it, but you have to do it. It's government mandated costs. It's like mortgage tax or transfer tax or a mansion tax, depending on the cost of the house. You don't have a choice. These are government mandated fees. But your attorney and your realtor and your loan officer are all, you're not going into the closing table with any surprises. You know exactly how much money you have to bring to the closing table. This has all been worked out ahead of time.
Most likely the loan officer already sent out a closing disclosure beforehand, and they already went through the list, and everything is itemized, so you can see basically where the money is going for each particular item, and your attorney's going over that with you as well. So the day before, basically, your attorney will definitely talk to you about this is what everything costs. And while you're at the closing table, the attorney will go through the whole thing, through the whole contract, let you know what you're signing, and then also with the paperwork, the deed, everything. Basically, the attorney will go through everything with the potential buyer or the seller, whichever it is. After that, like you said, the keys, deed, everything is exchanged. You have your new keys, so you're going to go to your new home, whatever time frame that you guys agreed on. You're going to go to your home, change your locks, do everything that you need to do, and you have your new home. Then go on a new chapter in your life. Rafe, I want to say thank you for doing this. Thank you for enlightening our audience with what goes on with the title insurance and stuff like that.
That's my pleasure.
If anybody wanted to reach you, how can they contact you?
Cell phone, email, call, text, email, it doesn't matter. I'm available 24/7. You don't get a lot of title emergencies at 11:30 at night on a Sunday, but it has happened, and I'm happy to help and figure out the problem. But you can reach me cell phone, email, however.
All right, guys, this information is at the end of this video. So if you have any questions about title, definitely give Rafe a call. If you have any questions about real estate, buying, selling, or investing in real estate, give me a call. I'm at Saint-Gerard, and I'm your neighborhood-friendly realtor. And guess who's the neighborhood-friendly?
Your friendly neighborhood title guy right here.
I stole his line. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to give us a call. Thanks.
Thank you.